Hi, everybody. So, a little bit of background on myself. So, my name is Jess. I have actually worked in the immigration field before. I was an immigration paralegal for 7.5 years. I know what it's like to put forms and filings together. And then I did also use Filevine Immigration AI, and I have used the system before in real life to put together actual filings. So, I'm really excited to show you guys some tips and tricks. I want to start off by going over, something super basic, how to put together a filing in Immigration AI. But I want to share some tips and tricks that where I see a lot of issues. Sometimes we'll be like, well, I'm not getting what I need to right here. So just some like problem solving, we just can make sure we do have everything in line to set up the immigration filing. And then I also want to share some tips and tricks for putting together a final filing. So once you've got the forms together, how we can now put that together with the rest of the documents that we have already in Filevine to really, get the best of our Filevine system and use all of the features available there. So I'm gonna share my screen. Jasmine has dropped our emails and additional information in the chat for you guys to see. And if you have any questions during this presentation, like Jasmine said, feel free to drop it in the Q&A, and we'll be keeping an eye out for that. So I'm actually going to share my screen now. Everybody can see my filing screen with the Margaret Tate project. Hopefully, Jasmine, can you confirm we can see it?
We can see
Okay, great. Also, bonus points if you know who my character or my client is here, Margaret Tate. Anybody knows where that is from, feel free to drop it in the comments. Gold stars for you. It's based on a movie. I'll give you that. Do you know,
I saw
Jasmine?
on social media that they might be coming out with a second one, and I'm like so excited.
Okay, great. So Jasmine knows where it's from. Maybe the rest of you do too. So I make that my test project. I think it's a funny nod to the movie. So here I am in the Filevine section. We typically recommend having a spot for where our team members are going to be assigned, whether it's the paralegal, legal assistant, case manager, form preparer, as well as the preparer that will be signing the forms. It might look something like this. So here I have placed myself as the paralegal and legal assistant, and we have the fake attorney name that's going to be working on this case. Most of you should have, I'm going to make sure we save this. We should also have an Immigration AI filing section that contains a link to get you to the Immigration AI site. If you don't, you can always get to the site by just going to immigration.ai. Just hit enter after that, and that should take you into the site. So once I click on this, it will open up in a new tab. I do already have it open. I have already logged in. I will also note, for those of you that are familiar with adding additional users into your Immigration AI, Filevine recently came out with an update to that. So now you can actually, when you're adding the users, you can opt to add them with FBID. So they'll be able to log in with just their Filevine login. I do recommend doing that moving forward. It just makes the access super easy for the users. Right now, we do still have the option to set a password, which will send them an email, and then they can create their own password. But I do recommend setting up with FBID if you are going to be adding a new user, just to make that seamless. So once I am in Immigration AI, in your environment, you'll also see additional filings like this. And I left these here at the bottom to show you what an expired form will look like. In our day-to-day, we have been frequently dealing with expired forms, new additions, and though there are times where we do get a generous grace period for submitting old versions of the forms, whether it's like 30 days, 60 days, there are times where that turnaround time is right around the corner. So I left these here just to show you what an expired form will look like. This will alert us to be like, hey, I need to recreate these forms on the most recent edition date. So we'll take a look at that in a second. I'm just going to walk through creating just a basic initial filing. To start that, I'm just going to go into create filing. And now the first step is kind of where I see a lot of mistakes sometimes. The first thing that we have to do is select a matter or project to link this back to. Sometimes we go through the entire step of making the forms and sending them into Filevine, and then we look at the Filevine project and the forms aren't there. So this can kind of be the first place where we could go wrong. If we link it to the wrong project, the forms are going to get pushed into that other project. So there's two simple things that we can do there. You could go into the project where they went into and just move those over into the correct project on the Filevine side. Or you could also, in theory, just come in and recreate the filing while linking it to the correct project. So to search for projects, I'm gonna start typing the client's name. And that is the answer to the question I asked at the beginning, if you don't know where this character is from. So let me.
And I think an important note, if this is not already something that you all are doing, you're going to want to name your project something that's unique. So that way, if Margaret Tate has multiple, file or cases with you or open matters with you, that you can easily tell the difference between them. So maybe adding in the type of case that this is related to, or dates if that's something that's easily identifiable for you, so that when you're in situations like this, again, you can connect it to the correct location and project.
Mhm. All right, so I picked the project name. You can select a start date and a target date here. These are only living within Immigration AI. These deadlines or target dates won't transfer back into Immigration AI. This is more for internal organization. Back on that first page, we had all of our listings, all of our filings listed out. So you would be able to kind of sort through by the start date and the target date to make that easier. So these dates just live within here. Now, the next place where we kind of get confusion sometimes is our involvements. To get people to show up in this list or in any of our involvement lists, what we actually need to do is make sure that they are listed in our project to start. So like I mentioned, we'll typically have our involvements be listed out here. The preparer is usually the attorney that's signing the form, or the preparer should be named here. Our legal assistants and paralegals, if they're functioning sometimes as interpreters and they also need to sign the forms, they need to be named in a project. And also spouses, sponsors, petitioners, whether they're employers or US citizens and residents, children, they need to be named in their appropriate section first in the project before we come over here and make the filing. Because if we come here and they're not listed, we won't see them here in our list. So to start out, I'm going to select here from my preparer. And if you guys could give me just 1 second, let me double check that we have the right project here. I'm just going to use these that show up here. So we have our foreign nationals, our beneficiary, our client is going to be Margaret in this case. For the preparer, I'm just going to pick a list from our contacts. This will show you all of your contacts that are listed in the other project. Now, one more place where people sometimes get confused is adding additional people, because by default, you're going to get these 2 options. But if we have other involvements, we also have to list them at this stage and add them. So we're just going to go to add more. And if I wanted to add an interpreter here, I would come here, add the role for interpreter, and then select the name from the drop-down menu that I get here. And then if I have a spouse or petitioner in the case, or a child, a sponsor, I also want to add their involvement here. So maybe I'm going to say I have a spouse. If they are the sponsor in a case, or if it's an employer, you would also select this radio button. This is super important and is often a step that's overlooked. By selecting this radio button, you are prompting the system to generate the correct questions in the questionnaire. If we have a spouse here, but they're not listed as a sponsor or an employer or a petitioning child, we won't get the correct questions we need in the questionnaire, especially when it comes to concurrent filings or cases where we have the I-864. If you don't select this radio button for the sponsor, we won't get the appropriate financial questions that we need to answer in that form. So just always be sure if we have a sponsor involved to be selecting this radio button. So I'm going to pick our spouse here. And then if you maybe make a mistake and realize that you don't need one of these involvements, you can always just click on this trash can to remove them. So I'm going to hit save and next. And now this is also a place where I don't see many people taking advantage of this step. A lot of people will kind of just skip over to the next step. If you haven't used the Immigration AI to extract data from documents, I highly suggest it. I also really recommend this for a lot of the data that's repetitive in forms, passport expiration date, birth date, parents' names, stuff that, essentially you pull up the passport, birth certificate, marriage certificate, and you're re-entering it on several forms anyways. Using the AI to extract that is super helpful. So I'm gonna demonstrate adding a document for our foreign national here. For the document type, I'm just gonna type passport. And then if you have that document uploaded in your Filevine environment already, you will see it here in this dropdown, or you do have the opportunity to upload it, which is what I'm going to do. Let me pull up my fake passport that is from the internet. Right, so I actually have this saved just as a JPEG file, and I'm gonna go ahead and add it. If you didn't know, you can upload up to 5 documents at a time for AI processing, and we'll get the screen that will pop up and the document has already processed. So here we have all of the data that has been extracted, and you'll see that a lot of the information is correct. The AI is very good at reading the document. Where it sometimes might need a little bit of help is just identifying what piece of information that is. So we have here the date of birth, general information, that is correct. Expiration date for travel document, that's correct. Nationality, current nationality, everything there matches up. But you'll see here, personal number. It's saying that this is somebody's home phone number. It got the passport number right. So sometimes we would just need to come in here, and if you know what piece of information that is, you can just type it in here and select the correct search result. I know in the forms that I'm going to be preparing, I'm actually not even going to need this piece of information. So I'm just going to delete this and not save it to this person's profile. Maybe I also know I'm not going to need the authority. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that as well, and it won't save to their profile. I'm going to go ahead and hit next so we can get into the next step, which is conflict verification. So in my Margaret Tate profile, I actually didn't have any other information saved. Had I had her date of birth and passport information, names, current nationality saved in the contact card, it would run it against the information that has just been extracted here and kind of highlight for us if we have conflicting information. And if so, we just need to make a decision as to which piece of information we want to proceed with. So everything here, we didn't have anything conflicting. So all of the radio buttons are selected. So I'm just going to hit save and next. And now I'm on this third step for selecting forms. I will also say something that a lot of people don't take advantage of is the bundles. So think of all of those filings that require 3, 4, 5, even if they just require 2 forms. I highly recommend setting up bundles. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select my forms. Then include a G28. Since I included a spouse on our list of involvements, I'm going to go ahead and just make this an I-130 packet. I'll throw in an I-45 just so we can see how that looks. And then I can add the bundle. We do have some listed out here. But you can always add them. So like you can name this like an adjustment packet once you add the other forms that you typically add. So we've selected our forms. The next step is that this step will essentially ask you who we need a G28 for. And this is also where I said sometimes see people skipping over that. They'll just hit submit and then we won't get the appropriate forms. So in this case, I'm going to select a G28 for both the immigrant and the spouse. If you just want one for the immigrant, you can just select that. But this is just a step that you should select if you want a G28 generated so you can identify who it's for. Sometimes people will just skip over this, they'll get to the filing and there's no G28 and this could be why. So I'm going to submit this and this is going to take us back to our filing page and then you'll see the status here. Once we go through the different steps to finish the filing, you'll see all of this completed and the status will show up as completed. You'll also see from here the little bell, and this is so that you can add USCIS receipt numbers later. So once we have finished the filing, sent it out to USCIS, and we get that receipt notification, you can come back in here and enter the receipt number for the different forms that we have. And that's going to come in handy when we want those automatic USCIS case updates. We can have those pulled into Filevine. So you're not even going to just need to come back over here and check or go to the USCIS case status website, try to read the tiny letters on the receipt number and enter that. It will pull automatically from the USCIS website and show up in the Filevine project. If you got a chance to watch our Tip Tuesday video that we posted, I went over how to do that, but I will also review that in a bit on how you can add those notifications. But that's what that button is. And we also see it in our filing down here, case status. So I clicked on the filing. Something I will also highlight is that every filing is assigned a filing number. And you can see it is on the link. And sometimes when you are creating forms and sending them into Filevine, when you push the forms over, they do go into a specific folder that have this number. So if you happen to have maybe multiple versions of it or have pushed it over more than once because you made some updates, if you're having trouble identifying which is which, you can always just reference this filing number, which does show up in that documents folder. So now you can see here, I have 4 questionnaires. So I have one for the preparer, interpreter, sponsor, and foreign national. For those of you that don't know, Filevine's Immigration AI will actually save information for each contact. So let's say today I'm preparing this form for Margaret, and in next year or something, maybe she's eligible either to remove her conditions on her residency or apply for citizenship. Any information that I fill out today for Margaret will still be saved in the system. And when I create that new filing for either application for her, it's going to save all of that information. So in the future, I'm also going to be saving time, looking ahead to the future of this case. You can expect to save time there. And if you have additional documents at that point, you can also run those through the AI and extract information. Same for the preparers and the interpreters. I have Chandler listed for the interpreter today. The next form that I prepare and Chandler's listed as the interpreter, I'm already going to have their information. So you'll also notice I have these little link buttons for the sponsor and the foreign national. These are the questionnaire links that can be sent to the clients. If you have Filevine texting enabled, you can just grab this link, go back into the project activity, and send that through text for the clients. Or you can just grab this link, also pop it into an email for them, or whatever your preferred method of communication is. This is the link that you would grab and just let them know this one is for the sponsor and then this one is for the foreign national. What the client will see on their end is actually what we see here. So for the client, this will actually look exactly this way. It is a live document. If they fill out the questionnaire and then go back and edit information, you will still see that here. We don't need like an updated link or anything. Everything is one link, so we don't need to worry about that. On here, I will also note if the client's browser language is set to a different language other than English, they will see it in that language. But if not, they can update the language on this menu in this top right corner. I think there's over 200 languages here that they can select from to have that displayed. So I'm gonna just press it in Spanish and you'll see it's already translated. So that is where they can view this questionnaire in a different language. So let's say that my process was I created the filing, I sent the questionnaire link to the client. They maybe have gone in, filled out some information, but not all of it. And now I'm gonna come back in and fill out the additional information. So you would come in here and enter, again, to the link, you would see the information that they have filled out. And all of that will be here. You do have to go through each section and just keep hitting next. So I'm just going to enter really random information here so we can see what it looks like on the forms. And while I do that, Jasmine, have we had any questions coming in?
No questions so far.
Okay, great. I don't know, what year should they be born? 85? Let's go in heights. Just entering random data so you guys can see what it's going to look like. We'll give them blonde now. Let's give them brown hair. let's say they're a citizen, we have their phone number. And I will also highlight that they could enter this, they could open their link up on their phone and fill this out. It's very compatible with phones. One, two, am I missing number? There we go. You can see there's data verification there. If you happen to fill out something incorrectly, it will kind of alert you there. I'm going to skip through these next few sections. Let's pretend I added in the rest of the information. Maybe I filled it out either in person with a client if they happen to be in the office, or we did it maybe over the phone and they're providing the information to me and I'm filling it out here. All right, so they do also get this verification and you will also see this verification. It's asking if we're ready to submit. We can hit yes. And then I'm gonna just quickly do the same thing for the foreign national. You'll also notice that the status here is showing up as complete. So give me 1 second while I go through these pages and pretend we are filling out information. And you'll also see that the foreign national questionnaire is a little bit longer. Think about just all those questions that we get asked on the I-130A, and then I did also add an I-485 in here, and I think that form is like 24 pages now. So that's why we have kind of like the longer sections here, because it does customize each questionnaire to the questions that belong to each involved. So we're going through, we're filling out information. I will also note the order that the questions show up for you here aren't necessarily the exact order of the way that they appear on the USCIS forms. They kind of group it together into categories, as you can see here. But the questions are very thorough, so you're getting exactly what you get on the forms.
Jess, the questions that appear in Immigration AI, is that the same order as they would appear on forms, or are the questions different or in different orders?
You and I are on the same wavelength. I just mentioned that. So yeah, so they don't always appear in the same order. What Immigration AI has done is they've kind of like grouped like questions together and have those appear. So even if on the form you might, kind of be used to filling it out in a certain order, on Immigration AI, they might be in a different order, but they are very thorough and it might just be addressed in a later section. So they do not show up in the same order, but they're group categorized, and you'll likely see that question coming up later. So I've completed the questionnaire. So now I should be going in and reviewing that, just making sure that everything has been entered correctly. When you do that, you can bump this up to the questionnaire needs review. And then from there, you can bump this up to reviewed. And on our homepage, when you come in, you would be able to see how many of the questionnaires have been completed, how many need reviewed, and how many have already been reviewed. So I'm gonna bump this up. Let's pretend I reviewed it. Everything's in order there. And then I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for 1 second while I finish this questionnaire for our other two involvements. Does anybody have any more questions while I get this wrapped up? I don't want to bore you guys with me just hitting next.
Doesn't look like any have come
Yeah.
just yet. Oh, perfect. In regards to the bundles, when bundles are created, do they appear for everyone?
Yes, they do. They appear to everybody in your Immigration AI environment.
And you have the ability to create bundles before you do filings, right? So somebody could go in at the beginning and create bundles and then have those utilized when you're ready to do or to execute those forms.
Yeah, so that menu will pop up kind of like when you are creating a filing. So if you could just kind of wanted to set them up for everybody beforehand, I would recommend just kind of go in, like if you were going to prepare a filing, and then save those bundles, and then you can cross out of that screen. Um, Give me one more second, just finishing up here. You guys know like the interpreter and preferred questions um, that come up, address and things like um, let me just ensure.
There's another question. Is there a reason why when a client opens an immigration link or immigration AI link, it says that the phone number is not associated?
Oh, that is a great question. So when that happens, I would recommend go back into the Filevine project and double check that the phone number is correct and that the email is correct as well for whatever involvement. Maybe we have it right for the sponsor, but or sorry, for the foreign national, but we didn't have it in for the sponsor or petitioner in the case. You also want to make sure that you have it correct on any of the contact cards. So if that message was showing up, I've seen that message when there wasn't a phone number associated. And I've also seen kind of you can like preview that phone number. So they maybe if that phone number is incorrect, you can preview that and know so you would know to come back into Filevine, update that, and hit save. They should be able to go back into the same link really immediately to see that updated phone number. If either it was blank and you added it or you updated it, that change is immediate and they should see it on that same link. So that's a great question. I have seen that happen a few times, and it could just be because we forgot to enter their phone number or email on our contact card on the file. So I've gone in and completed all of our steps. You'll also notice here that the status has now been updated to complete. So I can send these forms into Filevine one of two ways. And hopefully you've kind of noticed that with Filevine, there's always more than one way to do something. The first is I can just send them here. Or if you are already in the filing, you can send them here. I will also call out, there is an alternate option to generate the forms using the generate PDF. I recommend always use the send to Filevine button. If you hit the generate to PDF, what it's actually going to do is generate the forms and download them to your computer. So I would only recommend that in a pinch. I had a client experience something earlier this week where they were hitting send to Filevine. We did have the correct project, and there was perhaps some glitch. So we did reach out to Filevine support for that, and she was able to get on live help for support for that. But in a situation like that, and I know like a lot of our work is time sensitive, we need to get stuff out. There is kind of like a safety feature, which is the generate PDF, which I would only use in those circumstances. You want to get into the habit of always doing send to Filevine so that it will show up in the project. So I'm going to go ahead and just push that over. Now on our side, we did recently go through an update with our sandbox. So you'll see that message for confirmation. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice that this wasn't the original project that I showed. So we won't be seeing the documents pull over, but I'm gonna, if you give me just a second, just gonna put in some forms so you can see what it would look like. Do we have any other questions coming in?
Not yet.
Thank you everybody for bearing with me as we get these things. All right. So when you do complete that push, what you're going to get in your Filevine project is in your documents, you'll have a new folder appear that says USCIS forms, the filing number, and the client full name. So I'm sorry, we have an updated connection on our end, which is why that project didn't push over immediately, but this is exactly what you would see in your environment. And when you click into the folder, you would see all of the forms that were generated. If you recall, in our example, I demoed 4 forms just for the sake of this example. And our connection issue, I'm just going to display these 2 for our sample moving forward, but you would have all 4 forms listed here. They would be separate. So you would see a G28, I-130, I-130A, and an I-485, and or whatever other documents you selected for that filing. You would see them here. Each form would be listed separately. It would be its own individual PDF. When you click on the forms, you will see the completed form with the data that you entered as you're filling out the questionnaires. So one common question that I get here is, hey, they all show up together. Can I combine them? You can do that. So I'm just gonna show you what that would look like. Jasmine, do you know if we have the latest Docs Plus enabled in our sandbox?
We should, because the document search is at the top, but I don't see the combine feature.
Does it have to be turned on for individual orgs?
It should be turned on, but
Yeah,
maybe we need to check in on that because, yeah, I don't see it up there.
yeah. 1 second, guys. I sort of saw it earlier. So with the Docs Plus feature, we're able to combine all of our documents together. And you'll see I have also some supplementary forms for the filing. So I just have a marriage certificate, a passport, an I-94, and just notarized letters. Sometimes we have letters or affidavits or declarations as support for cases. So I've loaded some of that information already in here. And then typically, the other piece that we need for a filing is a cover letter. So I have a super basic sample here. Oftentimes we are generating this in Microsoft Word. If you don't have the DocGen feature available in Filevine or you haven't coded those out, using the DocGen feature in Filevine is an amazing way to get those templates loaded into Filevine. And then from each project, you just generate them and it pulls in project information. So it can pull in our client information, our client A number, information also from who our involvements are. So if we have the attorney signing the cover letter, we can kind of set up that information on the back end. So all I have to do is click a button and it pulls it in from there. So I did load up a sample here. And this is just a super simple version using, it's a docx format. You'll see it's super generic, basically has no real information on it. But this is just an example of what one could look like. So I wanted to show you guys how we can use the Microsoft edit version from here to get that version edited if you needed to, because Microsoft and Filevine work really seamlessly together to get that editing in place. But before that, I just want to make sure we'll be able to combine it. If not, Jasmine, I can move to another project and also demo that.
Yeah, it looks like it's available in the Grizzly Bear project. So I'm not sure why it's not showing up in this one, but it is available in Grizzly.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll move items over there. It's versus the squirrels, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for those of you
I
that do
see
have
it.
Docs Plus, if you're not seeing features like the combine or bait stamp or things like that, that's a time that you'd want to reach out to Filevine support to kind of see what's going on. If you're not finding your documents in the search feature and you do have Docs Plus, You'll want to verify that it's been OCR'd and indexed. That those two things are needed in order to search for your documents. So if you're not seeing that or it's not OCRing, and it should be a fairly quick process, but if you're not seeing that, you'll want to reach out to Filevine support for that as well.
We're gonna have to reach out to them and see why it's not there. No worries. We'll just get everything moved over. I'm just dropping all of our documents in a folder so I can show you those features. We're uploading, so I'll come back to sharing my screen in just 1 second. All right, we are in our project where we do have Docs Plus. I did move everything just into one folder within this project, but the documents feature that I'm about to show will be available in the projects if you have the Docs Plus enabled. So the first thing that I wanted to show was the editing in place of this DocX document. So let's say I did prepare my template cover letter and I have it here in Filevine. If I use or didn't use the DocGen feature, hopefully you do have that set up. If you'd like more information on that, you can also reach out to us and we can also do a demo on that. We do also have some information on the DocGens available on our free help menu on our website. But I'm gonna open up this document and you'll see you'll open it up and you'll get like this preview. I'm actually gonna hit this edit button that shows up right here. And then I get a pop-up that's asking if I want to open this in Microsoft Word. So I'm going to select that. And you'll see that I get my Microsoft window showing up. This little alphanumeric code after the file name tells me that this is connected to Filevine. So if you needed to make any last minute notes or changes into the document, you can add something. So you can see I've made this modification. I'm gonna hit, I usually do Command S because I'm on a Mac, but if you hit File, just make sure you're hitting the save, not the save as. You want to save on this same version. And that's completed. So I'm actually going to close this. Let me switch my screen back to Filevine so you can see this. And that latest version is actually already saved here in Filevine. So you'll see this edit that I made here, the notes, and this notes down here. So instead of having to like download this, make modifications, and then re-upload that version, you don't have to worry about that. Just hit that edit button, open it up using Microsoft Word, make your edits there, and it will seamlessly save everything. So now I call them kind of like my components to my package. I've got my cover letter updated. I've got my forms pushed over from ImmigrationAI and my supporting documents. So now I'm ready to combine everything using the combine feature from the Docs Plus. You'll see that I have this little lock on my Word document. That's because I still have it open in the Word window. So let me go ahead and close that. It locks it so that other people can't edit that. So now that that's ready to go. Typically when we're combining, let's say I put the cover letter first, then my forms, then my evidence that is going to go with the case. So you can make those selections here. You can either command or shift and select the documents, or you can start off with just one document and combine it and add your documents from this list here. So let me put the forms next, then I'll put in my evidence. So passport, birth certificates, bills, taxes, declarations, affidavits, photos. You would just come in and add all of those case documents. I'm gonna leave it there just for this sample. And then you can reorder them, or if you select them, I can move this to the bottom. So you can do that reordering directly on here. And you'll also notice I have PDFs, JPEGs, and DocX files. I'm just going to hit next and it's going to combine everything nicely. Some people also often overlook this step, and this is actually where you can rename the entire file and also designate where it's going to go into. I'm just going to call it this and leave it in this folder. You'll see your progress bar here at the bottom that shows it is combined. Loading and should be done in a few seconds here. And there we are. If I click on this here, I now have my letter, which was that updated version with my additional comments, your forms, and my additional evidence here. So it's using all of these features really makes it easy to create all of your filings, like all of the components directly from Filevine. I will also note some of the common questions that I guess I get asked about Immigration AI are, what if I need to make additional edits on the forms? Because remember, when you're bringing them over from Immigration AI, they'll be filled out just as they were filled out on the questionnaire. But maybe when you're reviewing it, you realize that you need to add something or a letter is off or something. Two things that you can do for that. The first is you can come back into the filing, go back into the questionnaire and make that edit here, send the forms to Filevine again. That makes it so that whatever information you did update saves into Immigration AI for future use. You might be in a pinch and you might just want to come into this PDF and make that edit here. You can do that. Just know that if you make edits here onto this document, it's actually not saving back into the Immigration AI feature. You're essentially just making edits to this document here. So it's a good solution. If you are in a pinch and you need to get this out, you can just hit the save button and have that ready. But I would also recommend going back into Immigration AI and making that small update. That way the information there is up to date. Another question that we actually get asked a lot, and Filevine get asked a lot, can we customize the text, the style of the text, the size of the text that shows up? And we actually currently cannot. What Filevine actually does is they pull this directly from the USCIS website and displays their formatting. So any like this format is directly from the USCIS site. So at this moment, we don't have the ability to kind of customize it. It's the same all across the board.
Jess, if they send the forms to Filevine again, will it create a new folder or will it just make the updates to the initial form that was sent to Filevine?
Great question. So it will actually make a new folder. So kind of how I displayed here, USCIS forms, filing number, and the name. If you make edits, push those forms over again, you'll get a second folder. So you'll see them listed out here. If you want to go into the folder navigation view, you'll see them listed out here. So then how will you know which one's the updated one? I pointed out that filing number earlier. You will find that filing number in the folder that is generated. So that's how you'll know, okay, so I'm on 54808 and just make sure that that matches up. So you're looking at the most recent folder. They will also have the date on them. So if I did this today and then I push over a new set tomorrow, it'll have tomorrow's date on it. So that's another tip, so you'll be able to tell, but it will push new forms over into a new folder. All right. So I know we're gonna run out of time.
Is it possible to delete the initial folder?
Yeah, you can do that. If you have those admin permissions in your project, you can just remove that folder. Here, hopefully you can see it on my screen. You could remove that after verifying that you don't need it. So I did also want to highlight the notification features that we have. You can go into settings and then go into notifications. I have here two notifications set up, one for when a questionnaire is completed and one for when we have a case update. So let me I'm gonna remove this one just so I can show you guys how to build that out. Essentially what this does is when there's this action completed in Immigration AI or on the questionnaire, that notification will actually push into your Filevine environment and you will see it in the activity feed here. And if you're subscribed to the project, you'll also see that in your feed. So to get those notifications, you would just go to add notification. And then you want to choose an event or an event trigger. When this happens, this note gets created. So I'm going to go for questionnaire completed. So especially if you're sending the questionnaires out to the clients and we want to be notified of when they have completed it, when they hit that submit button, this is the notification that you would set up for that. So it will default to adding a note. That's our only option for the action. And then you can add the note. And then there are some codes here on this right-hand side, this little menu, and we can use these codes in our notification. And when it gets pushed into the Filevine project, we'll have custom information. So we'll get the actual questionnaire status, the actual filing link, or the filing ID for the filing that we are talking about. So typically, I like to have my note say something like questionnaire completed. And you can also use Filevine text formatting in this note. If you're familiar with that, 2 underscores on either side will have this text show up as bold in my note. I think it's 3 underscores for italics. So that's also handy to know if you want to like format your note, make it stand out a little bit more. You can use Filevine texting formatting to have it appear as such. So I'm going to bold that first line. And then let's include the filing link. I'm just gonna put the name for that. And then I'm gonna grab that code actually from my short code list. If you click on it, it will get copied to your clipboard and then just paste it over here. So that'll give us the link, and then we can put who it was completed by. I'm gonna put the name of the individual, and then in parentheses, I'm just gonna put their type. So whatever their involvement would be, you would see that here. And I'm also just gonna add the questionnaire status here. So when a questionnaire is completed for any filing, I'm gonna hit submit. Our note that we would get in our project would read as, it will come from like the Filevine system, questionnaire completed, it will show you the status, so which will be completed. The filing link, you'll be able to click on that to get to that filing here, and then it will show you who it's completed by. So this is a super great note that I always recommend to have so that we can know when our clients or sponsors, petitioners have completed the questionnaire. And then the other one that I also really recommend setting up is the case update one. So I showed earlier where you can enter the receipt number once the case has been filed. I'm going to show it once more, actually. So let's say I filed the case for Margaret Tate, and we got the receipt number in the mail, or if you filed it online, you'll have that. You can enter the receipt number here or upload the receipt, and the AI will pull that number out. And you add the receipt, and you can add multiple receipts for like the different forms that you have. And then when there is an update from USCIS, either it's received or the biometrics were updated, the transfer notice, things like that, you can get those automatically into your Filevine project activity feed. So this is, I think, I would recommend this setup. So you have the USCIS case status update 4. You'll get that receipt number in. We have that code available here. You can just grab that and place it into here. I also left it as received on, and then we can pull that date that the case status was actually received, along with the title and the description. So you know when you're looking at the USCIS case statuses, it usually will have like that subject line up top and then the actual full description. So I've included them both here. So this is kind of like what I would recommend for this. I think I included receipt number, title, description. Yes, we are using all of our fields here. And like I said, you can also use Filevine text formatting. If you wanted to make any aspect of this bold or italic, you can use that in your code to have that reflect on your Filevine note. If you needed to ever modify these, you can just edit here, or if you needed to remove it, you can just hit on that trash can and you can add a notification for any of these. So every time a questionnaire is started, every time something is bumped to needs review or reviewed, anytime a form is sent to Filevine, you can also get those notes posted in your activity feed. So these are our options here. Right. Do you have any other questions coming in? Oh, thanks, Jasmine, for dropping that link to the formatting in here. So I mentioned like the 2 lines, the 2 underscores for having bold text or 3 for italic text. There are other text formatting features. Jasmine dropped the link to that article from Filevine support in the chat if you wanted to take a look at that. I recommend favoriting it. I always reference it a lot, not only for my immigration AI notes, but also for any fields that I use within Filevine. Okay. Okay. I did have one more thing to show. I know we are running out of time. I mentioned earlier the expired forms. So this is how Filevine will flag it for you. You'll actually get another one before this that will say expiring soon when the expiration date is coming up. When the form has expired, it will change to this expired. And if you click on that, all you will have to do is click here because Filevine will recognize that the expiration date is coming up. And if you want to make the new filing, you would just click here. What Filevine Immigration AI is going to do is just take that same information and generate a new filing for this. And then you can use that one. So it does have this flag here in kind of like our main menu. And then if you click into the filing, you'll also get that notification again. If you wanted to check what edition date this filing is using, you can go, actually it's not letting me here because this one's expired, but here you can go into USCIS forms and the edition dates will be shown here. Some of you might have also noticed this e-filing items here. In the future, we will be able to electronically file directly with USCIS through Immigration AI. It is in the works, and as you can see, it's something that they are actively working on to be able to get to us. And hopefully in the next few months, that's something that will be possible. But once that is done, the idea is that you'll be able to fill out your questionnaires here and just get everything pushed to the USCIS website to file electronically directly from here. So that'll be really neat.
If the filing was not initially sent to Filevine and it expires, would it still pull the information when you click here to generate a new form?
So, sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah. So if the filing was not initially sent to Filevine and it expires, would it still pull the information when you click here to generate a new form?
Yes, it will. So even if I didn't push it into Filevine, Immigration AI is still storing the information for those contacts. So in this case, like Bugs Bunny versus Warner Brothers, we would have Bugs Bunny's information saved, even if that was not sent to Filevine. Like here you can see that Margaret's was sent to Filevine. Maybe Bugs Bunny, I didn't get to do it, and now there's a new edition date. You would just be able to click that button, and whatever information you filled out for Bugs Bunny previously will show up on that new filing that you have. Great question.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jess. You are a wealth of knowledge. So hopefully you all got to learn some new stuff here. As always, we are here if you all need assistance or help. If you just need like consultation or trainings, we do those as well. You can find all of that information on our website. You can also reach out to myself or Jess and we can direct you in the right kind of path or to the right person, depending on what you're looking for and what your needs are. As always, we are here every Wednesday, this same time. So thank you all for joining us this week. Hopefully you all join us for a future free help session. If you have suggestions on topics or things that you would like to see us cover here in free help, feel free to shoot us an email and we can get that added to our list. These sessions are for you, so we want to make sure that you all get the most out of them. Jess, again, thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and have a great week.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.